I think I need a break. I guess I'll go get a cigarette. Many smokers feel that that's a perk of being a smoker. It gives them something to do when they need a break. What they need to understand, though, is they weren't needing a break, and so having time to go get a cigarette. They were needing a cigarette, and thus having to go take a break. This is where smokers often affect their productivity. And which is interesting because many people are afraid that, if they quit smoking, they'll never be as productive as when they were smokers, when the truth is, most people become much more productive once they quit smoking than they ever were as smokers because they don't have to take these chronic breaks. And that's really what it turns into, chronic breaks. Whatever your job is, if it's a manual labor kind of job, whether it's a job that requires a lot of mental thought, you want your brain functioning at peak level when you're doing a routine. So what happens to a smoker? You smoke a cigarette, your nicotine level is fine, and you start a job. It takes you a few minutes to get into peak levels of performance, to get into a stride if it's a physical or mental labor. And you're in the stride, you're working well, and 20 or 30 minutes into the routine, all of a sudden, your nicotine level has dropped. You don't know it's dropped, but that's what's happened. Your nicotine level has dropped, your brain isn't really being fueled right, and all of a sudden you realize you need a break. So again, the thought is, I guess I need a break, I better go get a cigarette. You stop what you're doing. You go get your cigarettes. You go to a location where you're allowed to smoke. It's usually like a little bit of a travel time to get from one location to the other. You're not working during this time period. You smoke a cigarette. Again, you're not working during this time period. You finally put out the cigarette. Hey, you may take a second cigarette depending on how bad you're feeling, but whether it's one or two, whatever, it took you time to do it. Then you have to go back to the location where you do the job. That took a little bit of time. Then you go back to the project. Well, it takes you a little while to get into that stride again, to get to that peak level of performance. And about 20 or 30 minutes into the routine, your nicotine level has dropped again. At which point, I think I need a break. I better go get a cigarette. You're doing that over and over throughout the day. 10 breaks a day, 20 breaks a day. Count the number of cigarettes you smoked in that time period. Those are the number of breaks you were taking. And this is where your productivity is really shot when you are a smoker in contrast to what you can become as a former smoker. Now, the first few days you quit, you're not working at peak levels, but that's blood sugar issues. And I'll attach videos to the video description here explaining why the disruption can occur for a couple of days. But once you get through that, you'll find yourself for the first time in your life starting projects and working all the way through those projects, generally more efficiently the whole time you're doing it and completing them quicker than you ever did as a smoker. You can become much more productive the rest of your life by not having to do this constant feeding of nicotine, trying to stave off withdrawal, which is as inherent as being a smoker. The way to avoid ever having to deal with withdrawal again, and the cost of those withdrawal, again, the productivity drain of that withdrawal, the discomfort that goes with the withdrawal, the way to avoid the withdrawal of ever having to quit again, or the withdrawal of just maintaining smoking, every 20 or 30 minutes of your waking hours. The way to avoid that standard of life again is by finally making and then sticking to a personal commitment to never take another puff